Hello and welcome to the Friday, December 27th, 2019 edition of Tesla Daily, unofficial Tesla podcast. My name is Rob Maurer. Today we are talking about some delivery news both in China and elsewhere, as well as some significant free advertising for Tesla that's happening. Tesla stock on the day-to-day did finish down 0.1% to $430.38, and that compared to the Nasdaq down 0.2%. The biggest news for today is from Tesla in China. It appears that Tesla has finally scheduled a delivery event for Made in China Model 3s. Tesla today sent out an official media invitation to a translated, quote, Made in China Model 3 employee carrier delivery ceremony, end quote, in Shanghai on December 30th from 9:30 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. Converting that over into US time, that would be 7:30 p.m. Central Time on Sunday the 29th. Reuters is also reporting that separately, a Tesla representative confirmed that with them. And Reuters also saying, quote, the first 15 customers to get the cars on December 30th are Tesla employees, the company representative added, end quote. So after all of these rumors, we can now finally put all of that to bed. We can be confident in this news. The first deliveries will happen on December 30th to customers who are also employees, similar to what we saw with initial deliveries for the Model 3 in the US. From the day this event is scheduled, Tesla would have broken ground on Gigafactory Shanghai 358 days prior on January 7th, 2019. So less than a year to go from breaking ground to delivery of production vehicles. Truly an incredible accomplishment, made even more incredible by what Elon said at that groundbreaking event, which was, quote, we think with the resources here, we can build the Shanghai Gigafactory in record time, and we're looking forward to hopefully having some initial production of the Model 3 towards the end of this year and achieving volume production next year, end quote. So not only have they achieved some initial production in that timeline that Elon set out, they've also achieved or will achieve initial deliveries as well. Huge congratulations to everybody at Tesla for this, specifically, of course, those at Tesla China. That being said, this does still leave us with a couple of questions. The first being, how many cars is Tesla actually going to deliver out of Gigafactory Shanghai this quarter? If this delivery event is only for 15 Model 3s for employees, what about those hundreds of other vehicles that we've seen in the parking lot of Gigafactory Shanghai? If you're going to begin deliveries, I can't really see much reason to hold off on delivering the rest of those. So it's possible that we could have a, not necessarily significant, but not an immaterial number of deliveries either from Gigafactory Shanghai over those couple of days. We've already seen car carriers coming in and out of Gigafactory Shanghai, so we know at least some of those vehicles have been transported. So I don't see a whole lot of reason to think that Tesla couldn't deliver a few hundred over those couple of days, with, I guess, my main reason for doubt just being that we've sort of had these all clear signals before, and then for whatever reason, things end up working out slightly differently than what we expected from reading those tea leaves. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see, and hopefully we'll get some more insight into that either over this weekend or Monday at that delivery event. The second question then is, of course, one we talked about yesterday. What is the impact of having these deliveries in Q4 on the financials? I'm assuming if Tesla is going ahead with this just a couple of days before the quarter end, it's not anything that's going to be too significant. For example, something that would be impactful enough to cause profitability to go from positive for the quarter to negative. I don't think it'll be anything like that. So even if there is a bit of an impact, Tesla's business is the point now where they can absorb small things like that. And that is really exciting. The volume they're doing from Fremont alleviates some of that need to optimize for some of the accounting things that you might otherwise think about if China was the only business line. And as Gigafactory Shanghai volume gets ramped up later on down the road, that has the same impact to another business line. I mean, this is a really small example of it, but it does demonstrate Tesla's ability to start to leverage the size of their business, and that's exciting. That leverage, as it develops, that's what drives financial returns. The other note on China today, again, comes from the @TeslaCN Twitter account, which again, I'm not 100% sure is official, but does seem to be. Anyway, that account posted that the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology in China has announced that the Made in China Model 3 has approval for the purchase tax exemption. That's a 10% tax, but my understanding is that generally that tax does not apply to these new energy vehicles. So actually in August, we had news that even Tesla's imported vehicles would be eligible for this purchase tax exemption. So while this is news today and is of course good news, this is something that I believe was mostly expected. With this news though, it is possible that maybe that was one of the things Tesla was having to wait for before beginning deliveries. Sticking with deliveries for a second, I just want to take a quick look at Norway, the Netherlands, and Spain registrations for the quarter. As I said, we'd keep an eye on those as we move towards the end of the quarter. Right now, registrations for Q4 in those three countries sits at just about 15,700. And again, that compares to the record last quarter for these countries of 12,350. So already about 3,300 more cars this quarter, or about 27%, and still a few days here to go. While this is super exciting, it's also worth pointing out that the entirety, actually more than the entirety of this growth, is coming from the Netherlands. Both Norway and Spain are actually tracking below Q3 registrations. Again, as a reminder, there are tax changes at the end of the year in the Netherlands, which is of course playing a role in the registrations we're seeing this quarter. Shifting then to the US, there was just an anecdote that I thought was interesting on the Tesla Motors Club's forums. This was posted by Enzo M3, a forum member with a Model 3 on order. And this member says, quote, "Got this text now. We currently expect your Model 3 to be built on 12/31. Please prepare to take delivery at our New Year's Eve delivery event at the Tesla factory. More details to follow later this week. We look forward to seeing you on the 31st. End quote. This is from a couple days ago, but I just thought it was super interesting that Tesla's actually building a car on the last day of the quarter and delivering it that same quarter. That's pretty crazy. You could take that as a really good sign that Tesla's doing everything they possibly can to maximize deliveries for this quarter. Sometimes in past quarters, they would have been shipping those vehicles internationally at that stage in the quarter. You could also interpret it negatively of Tesla literally needs those deliveries to try to hit the low end of their guidance of 360,000 for the year. So they have no choice other than to try to deliver those cars, even if they're building them the exact same day. Again, just an anecdote I found online, not something I'm reading into, but interesting nonetheless. All right, next story today that I wanted to talk about is some pretty significant free advertising Tesla's about to get here, with the inclusion of both the Cybertruck and the ATV in Travis Scott's latest music video. Travis Scott is a very popular rapper and also has some additional fame due to his relationship with Kylie Jenner. They have a daughter together. For some context, Spotify says that he's got 36 million monthly listeners, which, to put that in perspective in maybe some different genres, Katy Perry's got about 33 million, Imagine Dragons about 33 million, Kanye West about 32 million, so he's obviously in that upper echelon, and he actually performed at the Super Bowl last year, if you remember that. So point being, he's very popular, 7 million YouTube subscribers, 7 million Twitter followers. The Cybertruck and the ATV have about 40 seconds of screen time in this 4-minute video, and they're definitely heavily featured when they have that screen time. It looks like it would be something that Tesla would have to pay for. I mean, they're kind of riding the ATV around, getting in and out of the Cybertruck, things like this. But I can almost guarantee this is something that Tesla did not pay for and had to be sought out by Travis Scott or, whatever producer they have. So the name of the song is called Gang Gang. I mean, it's definitely, explicit lyrics if you're going to look into it. But if you want to, just search for that, Gang Gang Travis Scott on YouTube. You can check the video out. Looks like it'll have 1 million views within the first 24 hours, meaning a lot of attention for the Cybertruck and maybe even more importantly, the ATV, because I think a lot of people are aware of the Cybertruck from just the windows, but maybe haven't heard as much about the ATV. So to have that featured here alongside the Cybertruck, you can tell that they're definitely a pair. And while the ATV is not going to do that much as a standalone product, to have that represented by the Cybertruck, I think just increases the intrigue and the amount of interest that can be generated there for both the Cybertruck and for Tesla as a brand. The other important piece here, which I think can be brushed aside but would be easy to underemphasize, is the signaling this provides to the general population about the Cybertruck. This is slotting the Cybertruck in as a very desirable, very attractive vehicle by a very influential person in pop culture. That signaling is very important. That demonstrates to people in the community that are maybe less likely to go out and take a risk on something that looks so weird that that's okay. It's accepted and it's even desirable. This entire video signals the importance of cars. I mean, they're sitting around with all these imported tuner vehicles, basically present throughout almost the entire music video. And then among all of that, the Cybertruck is the one that is featured. It's pretty cool. And, however it went down, I'm glad Tesla was able to make this happen. Before we close it out for the day and for the week, I want to say a huge thank you to those of you that checked out that wish list for some of the equipment that I need. All this stuff is kind of expensive, so really appreciate you guys helping me out with that. I got back to Milwaukee today, so I got to pick some of that stuff up, and I'm super excited to put it to work. I'll leave that list up through the end of the year in the show notes if you want to check that out. I also, of course, want to say a huge thank you to everybody supporting the podcast on Patreon. You can find more details about that at patreon.com/Tesla Daily Podcast. Special thank you this week to our newest silver supporters, Stephen Bink, David Ross, and Steve Nam, And of course, as always, huge thank you to our Ludicrous producer, Vincent Smith, all our platinum producers, Rob Gill, Rish Singh, Nick Wood, Fela Winkelmolen, and Troy Cherasaro, and all our platinum supporters, Will Brocklebank, Trillium Smith, Evan Stair, Ty and David Dundas, Rick Sinta, Todd Luddington, Tesla and the Gong, Cristobal Boateng, Brad Rode, Alan Rudnick, Timothy O'Grady II, Andre Kent, and Saeed. And finally, all our gold supporters, including Jeremy Cook, Joel Sapp, Andrea Fabretto, Michael Pastroni, Robert Miracle, Brett Young, Craig Murphy, Julian Roloff, Anders Reffeld, Tyler Crawford, The Goobermans, Guy Masters, Daniel Erickson, Joris Pomans, Nathan Lucht, Gregor Weisgerber, James Smith, Joe Bush, Amir Tobani, Tim Turnstrom, Brian Karotis, Nick Mark, Ron Rubico, Matthew Lipton, Brian Anderson, Tony Naff, Pat O'Shea, Felix Kranberg, Kelly Bergman, Dwight Schum, Samuel Zong, Pitt Hotstetler, Callum Burnett, Jason Daly, Urban Lindeskog, Paul Dobbins, Bien Concepcion, Anders Jensen, Mike McHenry, Stephen Lewis, Daniel Landy, John Ferreira, Will Berger, Ryan Scanlon, Mark Silka, Dale Lutz, Lars, Chris Dasbach, Karan Varandani, Nils Engelking, Christian Moore, Jeff Lowe, Steve F., Christopher Bauko, Burton Torgerson, Andrew Clark, Josh Seablum, Brad Lettner, Spencer Gravel, Peter Kuba, Jeff Trapino, Michael Thomas, Dustin Hart, Crypto Dread, Nicholas Latowski, Lewis Ferris, Sam Pasek, Danny Hughes, Greg Nichols, Paul Vieger, Eric DeBrune, Doug Wandell, Ali Nasri, Roger McMorrow, Matthias Munkmeyer, Joseph Pye, Alan Levy, Brian Terry, Paul Meester, Jim Prihoda, Chris Duggar, Eric Stewart, Cos Cosmos, Joshua Kessler, Christopher Carroll, Seamus Johnson, Duncan Ashworth, Peter Vanderlyn, and Matthew Levin. Thank you all, have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you on Monday for the December 30th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.